Welcome, everyone. This is Joe Dager, the host of the Business 901 podcast. With me today is Dan Rome. Dan is the author of the international bestseller, The Back of the Napkin, and a host of other books. He teaches you how to use drawing effectively in business. Dan is also the founder of the Napkin Academy, the world's first online visual thinking training program, and the reason we're here today is a discussion about his new book, Draw to Win. Dan, thanks for joining me.
Hey, good morning, Joe. It is a pleasure to be with you.
And what's
Pretty cool.
And what's so interesting about that to me is that I always argue, because I'm a lean guy and I spend a lot of time in the lean area, okay? And one thing we use a lot of A3s, okay, is what they do, the Toyota things, and there's a lot of pictures. But we've kind of gotten a habit of putting too much information in them versus making them visual the way they were supposed to be. But everybody in the lean sales world, okay, wants to jump to the why, the 5 whys. And that's really way too premature in a sales journey to do that, is to jump to the why. And that story concept of portrait, chart, map, timeline, the flow chart, and the summary, the last step is the why, right?
Exactly. Well, okay, so you mentioned a couple of things that are interesting. I'm assuming that your followers all know what you mean when you talk about an A3.
Oh, yes.
So I love A3. A lot of people that I come across who don't have a deep background in TPS, Toyota Production System, or Lean, have no clue what an A3 is. And what I love about an A3, for anybody who doesn't know, is, it's just that's the European name, also the Japanese name for what we call a tabloid sheet of paper. That's all an A3 is. 11 by 17 sheet of paper. Put that into centimeters. What's interesting about it is, Joe, I'm sure your followers probably know then, is that there isn't a fixed template, but an A3 works because what it says is you're going to combine everything I need to know about any idea into one sheet of paper. And it typically could be broken up into, maybe seven to 9 different quadrants. And one of them has to state the problem, and one of them should include a picture, and one of them says what would the solution look like, and what would we achieve, and how will we test it, et cetera. But the beauty of it is it's kind of like a bento box, if you've ever had a Japanese lunch, where, each section, each little quadrant contains its one piece of the meal. And it's as you work your way through it, there's a linear, logical progression that takes you through the idea. And you're right, some of these hopefully are going to be a picture and they're visual. And I love the A3 because it gives us another framework and another structure, which is very visual. And I also love it for the reason you said. Simon Sinek, who is a friend of mine, has a book called Start With Why. He's been wildly successful book on leadership. And he's right. If you're trying to convince people as a leader, come with me, do this, it's really helpful if you can start people out by giving them the big why. Why are we doing this? What is our great objective? Is this to better humanity? Is this to make more money? Is this to make ourselves feel better? Is this to vanquish the foe? What is the why? I take a slightly different path because I'm usually hired as a problem solver, not so much as a leader, but as a problem solver. And usually when you're solving a problem, I find it does not work so well to start with why, because people immediately jump into the solution. And that's why I like to go start here and build sequentially a visual model of the problem so that by the time we get to the end, we all kind of see, oh, that's why we need this particular solution, because we worked the problem first. Now, here's the cool thing about this little diagram. You can start your storytelling at any point on this. You don't have to start here. I have found typically for problem solving and communications, this is the best place to start. It's like setting up the pieces on the chessboard. That to me is a logical place to start the game. First thing is put the pieces on the board. You don't automatically begin the chess game at the end. But if you want to, if your job is to sell immediately or to convince someone in 5 seconds or less, you could start here. You could say, this is why we're doing it. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, this is why we need umbrellas, because we want to stay protected from the rain. So everybody get an umbrella. Okay, now someone might say, well, is that really the right thing to do? Then you can say, okay, let's analyze the problem. and work it through. Joe, am I making any sense? The idea that you could start it anywhere. I like to start here. And I think working it gets us to the why where everybody agrees on it. Does that make sense?
Because I think what you're saying is sometimes you have to, where you have to frame the problem, frame the picture, frame the conversation is where the people are presently at. Don't try to change their mind, okay? Try to go where they're at, and then if you have that sequence in place, you can fill the story in.
That's right. I love it. Framing. Yes, you're absolutely right. How do you frame the story? How do you put yourself into the mindset of the person that you're trying to sell to? How do you have that sort of empathy squared, that real sense that I can't sell you a solution that I think is great unless I truly know what your problem is, have walked in your shoes, and show you that I know what your problem is. And not the only way, but I think the best way to do that is let's work the problem together. There's a famous quote from Einstein, and among so many, Einstein most famously said, I probably actually said 1/3 of the things that are quoted to me, but I'll take credit for the rest. So one of those that, if you track it down, Einstein did actually say is he said, if I had 1 hour to solve a problem, I'd spend 55 minutes analyzing the problem and 5 minutes coming up with the solution. And this is why I like to go in this particular sequence, because I think what most of us do, we see a problem and we start solving it. And you know this, we're solving the wrong thing. We don't know what problem it is that we're trying to solve. I mean, in my little silly example here of the weather, we're trying to solve how do I keep out of the rain with an umbrella? Well, maybe the idea is just don't go outside. Fine. So until you've really thought through the problem, your time is maybe not being so well spent on the solution. And I like that in the visual problem solving approach.
We've done a wonderful job, explaining things, and especially to my lean group of people, because I've always quoted this and used this for years, is that, you're not lean if you're not visual. And that is, a perfect way to go. I thought Draw to Win was a great book for sales, for marketing, and even for the executive. We need to get those guys sketching, right? Even at this
absolutely.
And that. So,
well, Joe,
tell me where I can find the book, and where's the best place to contact you, and just throw in and give me a plug about the Napkin Academy, okay?
Okay, so the easiest way to reach me is really simple. It's simply dan@danrome.com. If you can read that, dan@danrome.com. And that's my email address. danrome.com is the easiest place to find me online, and everything that we're talking about will be there. And the Napkin Academy. So napkinacademy.com, all one word. In fact, let me write it out right now so that people can see that. It is NAPKIN academy.com. That is, there you have it right there, napkinacademy.com. That is, as you mentioned earlier, my online visual thinking training school. I've started it almost 5 years ago now. We've had about 3,500 people who've become card-carrying members. I did an account once from 43 countries around the world. It's really great. It's a paid service. It's a subscription service. You pay a minimal fee every month. You pay me $19 a month. And what you get for that is you have my entire set of all 5 books available in video lessons. The video lessons vary in length from 15 to 25, 30 minutes. Each lesson is me live drawing, taking you through one aspect of visual communication. There are many, many of those lessons available now. We have an active community. People have homework assignments. Once every 3 weeks to get together online, and we do a review of each other's work. I introduce a new lesson. It's really great. I really, really enjoy it. And our community it's a tight group of people that are exploring from different parts of the world and different businesses and industries how we can bring these tools to bear in what we do. I encourage people to take a look. I think you'll like it.
I think it's an exciting opportunity for people to take a look at the Napkin Academy, but I would first tell them to start winning by reading the book
Drawing to Win.
Okay.
Very good.
I would like to thank you very much, Dan, and I hold you in high regards and think you've done a great job, through the last 10 years that I followed you. So privileged to have you as a guest.
Joe, thank you. It's been fun to be here.
This podcast will be available in Business 901 iTunes store. Look for some YouTube excerpts on it. And, of course, Business 901 blog site. So thanks, everyone, for listening.